Let's bring in the co-founder and chairman of Paul Mitchell, billionaire investor John Paul DeJoria. John Paul, and I also always have to say, you founded Patron, which is very close to my heart. Do you believe that these orders and the moves that the Trump administration is taking on trade will give American companies more leverage, will help us here at home?
Yes, and good morning, Dagan and Governor Huckabee. It definitely will. In fact, I was very excited about one of those executive orders because it addresses unauthorized goods, which concerns counterfeit goods brought into the United States, and people look the other way. At Paul Mitchell, we have had this for years, where people bring in counterfeit goods, mix it with the gray market goods, and sell it on drugstore shelves. And we've been saying for years, we've got to stop it. Customs does a pretty good job, but not enough. But this would strengthen a little bit, which helps people like me, and there's a lot of people in the United States businesses like me. Example, Paul Mitchell's only sold in salons, but you find it in drugstores and supermarkets. The majority of that is either from the gray black market or counterfeit mixed together, and there's very little we can do about it without the teeth. I also think it's very, very unfair many times where people do subsidize reducing costs in order to hit America really hard, and then they come back and raise their prices. That's not fair. So I think there's some good things here, but what I really like about it is the fact they said they have 90 days to review it. So they're not just jumping into something, they're carefully going to look at what it is we really want to accomplish and hopefully think about how it's going to affect us as well as the other country and the trade that we have with them. That's a good sign.
John Paul, great point.
John Paul, one of the things I admire about you is you're a true American success story, and you created something from nothing. Now you find that you're competing not against your competitors in America, but competing against people who aren't playing the same fair game that you had to play to be successful. So when President Trump says we're going to stop the unfair trade, we're going to stop the theft of intellectual property, how big a deal is that for future entrepreneurs who want to be the next John Paul? Tell me how that affects their ability to do what you have done.
What a brilliant question. It affects them big time because you work really hard, the American dream comes true, and all of a sudden somebody's knocking you off or playing very, very unfair. I know when I, for example, import into Mexico, I pay 16% duty. Now, I don't think Mexico pays that coming back, but new businesses need to start out on an even playing field. Otherwise, they're going to work hard, and someone's going to undercut them. So I think for future generations of entrepreneurs, and we are an entrepreneur country of we the people, it's going to affect them big time. So, you know, I may not agree with a lot of things Trump does, but however, on this one here, I think he's right in line, and I really think it's a good thing for all of America. Good show, Donald Trump.
But on deck also is renegotiating NAFTA, and given the fact that as the co-founder of Patron, that is manufactured in Mexico, what are do you have any concerns about that trade deal being renegotiated?
That one I don't think they're going to hit because you cannot make good tequila like Patron anywhere but a certain area in Mexico like Champagne. And when it's brought into the United States, it's taxed quite nicely by the United States. So if you start taking everything made in Mexico and brought in the United States and tax it all, it's not going to work. We, I believe, import about 400,000 barrels of gas and oil a day from Mexico. Well, you're not going to up that 20% because if you do, all of a sudden, the U.S. can't compete anymore because now they have to raise their oil prices with things that come out of Mexico. I think what they may be looking at, and which would be realistic, are things that are made in Mexico on the border that could be made in the United States, and perhaps there's some kind of an adjustment. My feeling is, instead of taxing 20%, let's say the company saves 20%, why don't you only tax them 10 or 15%? They still make a little bit of money, but yet a lot of money is coming back to the United States on products that could have been made here.
In the meantime, JP, Trump's team, there are reports out that they're eager to woo Democrats on tax reform. This is after the administration and the GOP leadership, they couldn't gain enough support for the House health care bill. The president criticized the pushback. In a tweet, he went individually after some members of the Freedom Caucus, saying if Rep. Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, and Raul Labrador would get on board, we would have both great health care and massive tax cuts and reform. And then Congressman Justin Amash responded. Watch this.
Most people don't take well to being bullied. It's constructive in 5th grade, but it may allow a child to get his way, but that's not how our government works.
Do you worry, I mean, this is getting petty on both, I mean, among many individuals. JP, do you worry that this is going to get in the way of some serious tax reform that surely businesses and individuals need?
I think it's going to definitely, shall we say, hinder it, sidetrack it a little bit. First of all, trying to get Democrats to agree, no disrespect, on tax reform, where their whole platform was we're going to raise taxes, we're going to raise taxes. Whether it was Bernie or whether it was Hillary, we're going to raise taxes. So I think that's going to be a difficult one. And I think in order to handle that one, you need more poise, more respect, where instead of having a certain demeanor, you have one of more kindness, and let's find a middle ground there opposed to here's how we're going to do it and it's all your fault. Well, when your own party goes against you, I think you got to handle things in your own party first. And what you've got to do is the greatest good for the greatest number. So I'd say President Trump has his work cut out for him on this one, and what would be really helpful would be his demeanor. If he just changes it a little bit, be a little more presidential, I think that'll be very helpful to the young man.
John Paul, real quick, it's Kevin Kelly. Border adjustment tax could impact consumer discretionary spending. You would know better than anybody just given that. How do you think that would play out? Would that be a completely detrimental policy because it also plays favoritism to certain industries?
Yeah, I think it's all how it's handled. If it's handled where it addresses everybody and only those things that are unfavorable to the United States, wonderful. If across the board it goes for everybody and everyone has an increase, then the U.S. pays for it. We, the people, the taxpayer, pays for it. And I don't think that's what they had in mind, because anyone that has a big increase is going to pass it on to the consumer. And that's not right. So they've really got to think this one out a little bit.
And JP, before we go, one of our viewers, John Gold, tweeted, said, so great to see you on the show this morning. Hopefully you will school me and take me to a real race, meaning drag racing, which your daughter does.
Oh,
so.
my daughter Alexis, we're so proud of her. She's one of the fastest women in the world. Can you imagine, in less than 4 seconds, she goes about 330 miles an hour. She's magnificent. Go, Alexis.
Yes,
she's racing this weekend in Vegas.
Fantastic. And yes, I can imagine that, a girl going that fast.
She won the U.S. Nationals 2 years ago.
I know,
and a girl.
I know. So I'm a NASCAR fan. I need to get on board with some more drag racing. JP, it was great to see you. John Paul DeJoria.
Love you out there. Love y'all out there.
Always a pleasure.